So for me, that's a picture of March 2008, and it's in Normandy in France. And apart from being a lot thinner and less grey hair, we're a happy family, and that's my daughter Emily, and my wife is pregnant with Joshua. So the pregnancy was fine, it went really well, but Monday the 20th of October, we were both feeling really poorly, headaches, sore throats. And on Saturday night, so this was about 3 weeks before the due date, my wife's waters broke. And over the next couple of days, we went to the maternity unit, and we were told to come back and wait for the contractions to start. And we went into hospital at 8:30, and as you can see, Joshua was born at 7:38, and a perfect, healthy little baby boy, and we were ecstatic. But soon after the birth, about 8 a.m, my wife collapsed, and literally collapsed. She had a really high temperature, and we later learnt that that was an infection. And I'm actually going to leave the story there and finish it at the end of the presentation, because now I just want to talk about this case study. And this was a confidential inquiry done by the Perinatal Institute, and I think it's pretty fundamental. And what they did was they looked at normally formed labour and delivery in 2008 to 2009, so 1 year, in the West Midlands, and they looked at 25 cases. And these were all viable births, 16 stillbirths and 9 early neonatal deaths across 15 maternity units. And they looked at those 25 cases with a full expert panel, and they compared the results with what the unit had learnt. And I think the results are very, very powerful. These are the concerns that the confidential inquiry panel picked up, so 140, compared with the concerns that the unit picked up of 33. So you've got these deaths that were happening, and the unit level systems they had to review them had only picked up on 24% of the issues. That's not 24% of the learning, that's the maximum learning. We don't know what the learning was, but it could only be 24%. So some facts. 2011, this study by the Lancet found that the UK was the 33rd out of 35 high-income nations. Not good. We spent, in 2011 to 2012, £550 million in negligence claims relating to maternity. Yet, in this case, 24% of the learning points weren't even taken. I think that's quite shocking. And then I'll pick up back on my own story. So my wife had collapsed. She eventually was given fluids and antibiotics and recovered. And I asked about Joshua. Well, if my wife's she needs antibiotics, what about Joshua? And we were just told he's fine, he's okay. Throughout the next 24 hours, he had a low temperature, which I didn't realise, but that's a classic sign of neonatal sepsis. Nobody picked up on it. Laboured breathing and lethargic. And at one point, my wife actually called an emergency bell and said, look, he's not breathing properly. But still, nothing was done. He never saw a doctor. And sadly, at 24 hours of age, he collapsed. And that was the first time he'd been seen by a paediatrician. And my wife called for help, and Joshua was taken away. He was transferred to Manchester, where actually at the point when he collapsed, the care was fantastic. And the NHS can deliver world-class care. We all know that, and we should be proud of it. After Manchester, he was transferred to Newcastle, where he was put on ECMO, and he lived for 9 days in total. We were told he was going to survive, but this ECMO, which is like a heart and lung machine for babies, he was doing really well until the 3rd of November, and then when they were trying to take him off, he started to bleed from his lung, and sadly on the 5th of November 2008 he died of, he actually bled to death, which you can imagine was your world stops. So what happened after that? Well, about a month after Joshua's death, we were told all records of his observations in that 24-hour period had gone missing. We were told Joshua's death was a one-off by the Trust, but over time we learnt that wasn't true. The Trust actually did a report into the maternity deaths, but that report was hidden by the Trust. It wasn't shared with the regulators. And ultimately, this was the headline in the Health Service Journal in February 2012. So Joshua died in 2008. In 2012, mothers and babies still at significant risk at Morecombe Bay, and that was only triggered by the inquest we eventually managed to secure for Joshua's case years later. Why? 2004, you know, this document's been produced, the 7 Steps to Patient Safety. It details an incredible way of learning from mistakes. Suzette Woodward, one of my health heroes, was involved with this, but it's just not followed. So we've got documents that say how we can investigate things, but it's not followed. We don't have standards in clinical incident investigations, so the regulators don't go in and audit serious incident reports. And you notice I've put that currently, because I'm really going to try my best to make sure that we do. Too often organisations respond to incidents in legalistic and defensive ways. How many times do clinical negligence cases get settled 3 or 4 years after an event, and you look back at the initial response from the trust and it was defensive? That's no good to anybody. That's patient safety catastrophe. And there's a lack of training in the principles of patient safety and incident investigation. Don Berwick's challenge is to make sure that the quality of patient care and patient safety is above everything else. No chance, unless we have full honesty when things happen. Medical records going missing is just appalling. All mistakes and serious incidents need to be properly investigated. We need action plans that address the root cause, and they're audited. And this is something I'd like people to think about. Another definition of a never event for me is actually any mistake that caused preventable harm happening twice for the same reasons. That, to me, should never happen. So the Perinatal Institute case study, the learning ratio, if you like, was 24%. I think everybody that works in the NHS needs to think about their own learning ratio when things go wrong, and we all need to work together to really bring that up. And the reason is because the photo I showed you at the beginning, which was a happy start for a family, didn't end up happily. It ended up with a grave and, you know, a son that we don't have anymore, and it could have been prevented. And all I ask is everybody to work together to do our best to make sure that that kind of thing doesn't happen again. Thank you.